I am recording, and well, let's get started. We are talking about construction, and we are going to talk about this section. We have to connect the wall, the floor, the roof, and the skylight. And if we solve this, I think the rest of the details that we have in that building, it's they are the same. Well, we have this facade here, but this is the rear facade, and this is where the cars are coming from, and it's not as important as this one. Okay, so if we solve this facade here, especially when we are working with skylights, we are doing well with this building. In this case, the building doesn't have a drainage system here outside because we have this. Well, those are not retaining walls. We have talked about this many times. But if we had retaining walls, if there was a basement here, we would need to place all these, all the stuff that we did for the midterm with the waterproofing element, the drainage at the bottom. Okay, but in this case, we don't need that because there is not a basement. Okay, so we are working with this section. And now I'm going to start this call out from scratch. I think this is section 1, call out 2. No. Nope. Call out 4. No, it's call out 1. Okay. So this is the wall to floor transition. As I always mention, if we are working at this scale, this level of detail is enough. Okay, so when we are preparing the final sheet, where is it? Here. Okay, so this detail level it's fine. So we don't need to work on this level on this detail. But if we are working with callouts, we do have to work with this. So this is not enough for this kind of scale. So let's work with this callout. This is pretty straightforward. We did this before. I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to, I don't think we have these detail components. No, it's not. It's in annotate. Detail component. Yep. I didn't work with this file last time, so I didn't insert the window details. I'm going to do it now. Insert, cloud family. We're working with detail, where is it? Detail items, and we can work with openings. And we have wood windows. We are working with wood windows. We can work with metallic or aluminum windows or whatever. But in this exercise, we are working with wood. So in wood windows, we need to. I think we were working with a projecting one, and this is the seal section. Okay, so we know the head section and the seal. So we have to work with one of those. Which one? There are two seal sections, two projecting seal sections. This one and that one. I don't remember which one we used. Okay, so we're going to work with this one. Now annotate, detail, and there you go. And the first decision we have to make is where we place this window. So it has to be here. I'm going to place it a little bit farther because I'm going to place it here because I want to do something. You see that there's something here. So I want to do something here in this gap between this place and the wall itself. Okay. So I can place it here. Down. If you remember what we did when we were working on the midterm, we did, or we tried to create those details in 3D so that when we had a section, we had the detail. Now we are going to work only in 2D. Okay, that means that what we are doing is only visible in this callout. It's not in the 3D model. It's not in the even in this section where the callout belongs. Okay, so we're working just with 2D models. I always I always recommend you. It's always better doing like a 3D model with all these details, but it takes a lot of time. So if you get paid for it, go ahead, do it. But now we are not getting paid for it, so we can just do this, and that will be fine. We have to edit this family a little because we need to extend this up to this this point. We can hide the window here because now we are going to work with these details. So double click, you open the family, and well, you remember that we extended this because we need like more. And we have to extend all lines. And and now we need to assign the right width to this element. How can we do that? How can we do it? We have to measure this distance from this point to that point. So what is this distance? Annotate, align. Eight inches. So I have to go to the, yep, and from this, is it from that point? Yeah, from this point to the end of this seal element, it has to be 8 inches. So I can create a line, and from here to there should be 8 inches. And now we can just select this and move it that way. If we load into the project now, override the version, and now it looks better. Okay, so what's next? We have to fix this element on this wall. And it's always useful having something structural here. So this is the rigid insulation. We have layers. This is the rigid insulation. And you cannot fix this to the rigid insulation directly. So we always have to, and as I told you, we are working just with 2D elements. So I'm going to work with these regions, the masking regions or the field region. There is not a, I will use masking regions, but what I need first is to create something structural here. And this can be a structural element. I think we used a specific hatch for this structural element. Well, make sure that when you are defining different elements in the same element in different callouts, you are using the same hatch. Okay. We are using the projection line surface pattern. I will select this diagonal down. I don't remember. No, I don't want to do this. I selected category and I want to select element by element. And then material, diagonal down. I think the scale is too I will do change the scale. This is diagonal down, line spacing, say 5. Yeah. You know that sometimes it's not visible. I don't know why, but if you change the view and then you do it again, well, it will be like this eventually. Okay. So this is the something structural, a wood element in which we can fix this part of the frame. And now we need to work with this. And I want to explain something here, because how can we connect this sill element? The sill is the part of the wall that it's just underneath the window. Okay, this is the sill. So how can we connect this sill to this floor or to this slab? This is a concrete slab. By the way, this is concrete. This is a retaining wall. It's made of concrete. In that slab, we didn't assign any, as far as I remember, maybe you did, but I didn't assign any floor or any material to this. So I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to use concrete cast in place. And now, apply. Yeah, we will have the same hatch because this is concrete and this is concrete. Okay, so we have the same hatch element. And I think I'm going to override this in view, and I'm going to use, this is a surface pattern, but the background, no, we're talking about the cut patterns. So the foreground is by material, the background, I will use a solid and something grayish. Okay. Now the next is this wall. You know that we have the rigid insulation here, so it will be yellow with the hatch for rigid insulation. But before doing this, I want to explain what we are going to do here. This is a very special element because although it is protected, so here we have this overhang, so when it rains, this part of the floor is protected from the rain. But, well, if it rains or if it's raining and it's a windy day, the rain will end up entering this, hitting the window, and there will be water here. So we need to get rid of this water. And getting rid of water is always moving the water out. Okay, so if we imagine that if we have water here, if this is flat, the water will stay here. And if it stays here, it will end up affecting that wall. Okay, so this is always something. If we didn't have the overhang, it would be even worse. So we have to be even more careful. So here we have the overhang, we protect this, but even if it's protected, there's a risk that the water can stay here, and water cannot stay. We have to get rid of it. So we have to move the water out. So we need a slope. And again, at that scale, maybe we won't notice that there's a slope here, but when we're working with the callout, we need to convey the idea that this is sloping out of the building. And not only do we need a slope going out, but we need something here to collect the water that might be hitting the glass. Okay, so if we hit the glass with the water, I think the callout will be. So we hit the glass, and then the water goes out and it goes down. There's a slope here, so it goes down. There's an element here. There's a ceiling here. But the water cannot go up, so it's very unlikely that the water goes up. The water goes out, and we get rid of it. Okay, so at the end, but then the water drops, and it will be here. And what do we need there? Okay, so it's always something good when we're working with drainage. So this is the kind of things that we're going to do. Okay, so this is a wall. In this case, it's a curtain wall, but it can be made of wood or whatever. This is the floor. And we have this element, we have this drainage, and this grill. So if there's some water here, well, it goes through the grill, and we collect the water here, and then we get rid of it. Okay. We can do this. We have here like tiles with these elements to make these tiles horizontal. Okay. And this is the waterproof. This black stuff is always a waterproof element. But as you can see, it's always the same idea. Here we don't have these tiles here in this detail. We have like concrete as well. We have waterproof here, and then we have this grill, and then we have this gutter. Yeah. And it collects all the water and then gets rid of it before affecting the wall. This is what we're going to do. And as you can see, well, even before placing the wall, they are placing this element with the gutter and the grill. But that's the idea. Okay, so keep this drawing in mind, because this is what we are going to do to collect the water that we might have there. How can we do it? Well, first we need this element. We need this gutter. What is the section of this gutter? Well, it's not as simple as it might seem, but yeah, so we always have, but let's keep it simple. So we're going to do something like that, something like it's like a box, and here we will place that grill. Okay, so let's do it something simple, but it has to be here. It has to be here. So what can I use? I'm going to use another region. So I'm going to use line, and I want to give a, yeah, so there will be a gap here. I will explain why later. What's the width? 8 inches, something like that. 8 inches, and the height 4 inches. Can do this, and then it's something made of aluminum, or it's metallic. So we can have 0.25. Okay, I'm going to use the offset, and the offset is 0.5. 0.5 is too much. 0.25 inches. Yep. Okay. Now I trim, and I have to close this. Okay, I make it a little bit more. Now offset again. Trim again. Close it. And I want to do something like this here as well. Can I? Yeah, I think I can. Okay, and now I want to move it Okay, so this is the shape of this element of the gutter. I'm not happy yet. I'm going to extend this and move it slightly down. Okay. I think now this works. So this is the gutter, and then we will need a grill here, and we will define that grill later. And now we need the slope. So we are going to work, let's finish the masking region, and we need a hatch for this. I'll do it later. I'm going to use another region here, and this is going to be the slope. Okay, it goes out. So now if some water ends up here, we can collect the water in this gutter, or if it's here, it goes out. Okay, so that works. And now what else? I'm going to do this. And okay, now I need to work with the grill. Okay. And I'm going to finish that region. Now I'm going to copy this one. Say 1 inch away. And now I'm copying multiple and mirror. Okay, so that would be the grill. And now this is not floating, so there is always something. Yep, like this. So there is always something. You see this pink or pinkish element. Okay, so this is always something elastic that because this gutter is made of steel, as you can see, or aluminum, and it can, if it heats up, it can expand. So we need always something that protects the wall. Okay, so we have this element, which is like rubber, something elastic here and there. Okay, so the gutter is like floating, and I don't know if you can notice, but we have something here as well. Okay, so we have another element, so that this is not floating. This is just resting on something that is elastic. So we're going to do that. So we can create another region here. And then another one there. And another one there. I don't know if we can do a masking region with 3 components. Let's find out. No, we can't. Okay, so I have to do this. I have to copy. And finally, another region. Here. There you go. Okay, I'm going to, then I will start working with materials and different hatches and all that stuff. But so far, I think it's good. But now we can't work without the waterproofing. You see that here we have different waterproofing layers, or here we have this black stuff, okay? So the more, where do we have to place the waterproof layer? Just underneath this flooring here, or underneath the gutter? So I would say both, in both places. And then I need to wrap this wall so that the water doesn't affect the wood, because this wall is made of wood. Okay, so we have to be careful with this wall. So first, I would lift this wall just a little to create a gap here, and then I'll fill this gap with some silicone. We're going to need another structural element here because we are ending this wall and it can't end with rigid insulation. So I can copy this element here, and I can copy this here. And why can't we copy the hatch? The element, background. Okay. So make sure that this is structural as well, so it doesn't end with rigid insulation. This can be made of silicone, so I will work with a solid dark gray thing. Okay, and this wall, I'm going to create parts, and I'm going to work with this part, and this part is going to be by element. The cut pattern, I don't want this in the background. I want a solid, same color, yellow. Okay. And now this can be something different. So we can override graphics by element. I'll use a hatch, but then I'll use some solid color, grayish. Okay. And okay, this material, we create that slope with something. This is a structural concrete, and this is a non-structural concrete. If we look at this, okay, so this is mortar or something that it's made of concrete, or it's made of mortar, cement with sand, but it's not structural. So we can use the same material. We can use the surface, can be the same concrete material, and then the background can be solid, but with a different shade of gray, even more different. that. Okay, so it's something that it's related to concrete, but it's not the same material as this one. It's something different. And are we done? Not yet, because we need the waterproof. So I would use a double waterproof layer. So the first waterproof layer, well, now we need to work with lines, okay, with thickness. And I'm going to, I'm in annotate, so I'm going to use a detail line. And this detail line is gonna go like this, and like this. And move it down. Okay, this is the first one. Now I'm selecting all these. I'm going to make it hidden. And I'm going to work with the hidden. Is there something better? Override. And I'm going to work with the weight. Let's make it 5. Yeah. Okay, so this is the waterproof protection here. And but I need another waterproof protection. So I will use another detail line going from this point up to here and then all the way up. Now I'm going to select this and this. I'm going to select a hidden. I'm going to change the thickness. It was 5. There you go. Okay, so now we have a waterproof layer here and another there. So everything is, especially the wall, now it is protected. If in the event that we have water here, first we try to move the water out. If it doesn't work, then we have this gutter to get all the water and get rid of it. And if this is not working, at least we have another waterproof layer here going up so that that wall won't be affected. So we have a 3 level or 3 protection level. I think it's more than, well, it's never more than enough when it comes to water, but I think it's not bad. And finally, we can, because we cannot expose this water protection, so I'm sure that this is covered by something. Okay, so you don't leave this waterproof layer exposed, so you need to hide this with the flooring or whatever. And so we can create another region. Okay, we can make it horizontal. And this is the final flooring, so we can make it gray. Okay, and then this grill, I think, now I want to select this element. Is this the thinnest line we can get? think it's the thinnest. Okay, we're almost done here, and we can adjust this to the size of the wall. We don't need this to be that big. Okay, and now there's something left here because as far as I remember, the indoor flooring is not made of concrete. Let me check. Yeah, it's made of wood, as you can see. Okay, so this is a good excuse because we have the thermal insulation here, but we don't have any thermal insulation on the floor. And it's always convenient having thermal insulation on the floor. So you can go to the floor, you can create a solid 3D solid floor with thermal insulation and flooring, or we can use the masking region. Okay, no. I'm going to make it even better because this flooring, for sure, we're going to need something to. Okay, so we need a transition element between the wall and the floor. So this can be something like this, something made of rubber as well. Then we will need probably some structural element made of wood. Let's copy this. Between these two wooden elements, there will be the thermal insulation. Here. There. And finally, we will have the flooring system, another masking region. There you go. So now let's define the elements. So this is the same rubber as we had there, so we can override. And the pattern is the diagonal down, and the color, it was the dark gray, solid. Okay. Now this is a wooden element like this one, so I will select both. This and the surface, it's going to be the diagonal down, and then this element is going to be the thermal insulation, and it's going to be solid. Well, yeah. And finally, this is the flooring. So I can make it by element made of wood. I like it very much, but anyway, that's the idea. And finally, we just need the thermal insulation by, I don't remember, was it 7 inches? Oh, and I don't know the distance between this. Is it maybe 6? Yeah, 6. Okay. So now that looks like a detail. Probably we are splitting hairs here. We can assign a color to this material. And the other. Are we done? Not yet, because we cannot leave that exposed. Okay, so we need to, that's why, yeah, so now I remember that I had this because I want to make sure that we are going down and we can cover all these elements. So I'm going to create another region here. Something like this. And now I copy this one. And finally, there you go. Okay, so this can be another wooden element. This one, that one. With the diagonal down. And this, and this. No. This, and this can be made of, well, probably we can use like another different color for the wood. I have to work with the cut patterns. Yeah. So this is 222. There you go. Okay, so let's analyze everything here. This is the window. It rains, the water goes down, we get rid of water. We have this air chamber here. This can be only, yeah, this can be outside. So we have the plywood, thermal insulation plywood. We can have an air gap here with these elements, and then we can have another plywood there. Okay, probably we will have a detail like that, so that if water goes here, all these elements or all these layers are protected, and then the water goes down and it ends up in this gutter. If the water is here and it filters through this layer, it goes out this way. If some of the water is moving rightwards, it's collected here. Yeah, so I think if we think that we are water and we want to enter the building, we need to find water barrier, we always have to find this, unless we have a vertical element. If there is vertical, water goes down immediately. But if it's horizontal, we need to enter that building, so we always need to find a water barrier. And I think in this case, we have all of them. Okay, so this looks like a good detail. It can be better. It can be different, so you can solve this in different ways. But at least with this detail, you have everything you need to get rid of. This is what we need. Okay, and here, this is the retaining wall. This is the slab. So I don't think there's a... Well, there would be another, when we are working with sections and callouts, it never ends. So what is this detail? We can have another detail here because there will be a slope. And how do we finish this? Okay, so that would be another callout here. There will be another callout there. So we can have as many callouts as we want, but I think with 1, 2, 3, 4 for this detail, it's more than enough. So let's focus on this part now. Okay, so let's focus on this one. And what callout is this? So in section callout 1, let's see what. Okay, so we have this one. Okay. If we zoom in here, we can see that there's a difference between this and this. So the level detail is different. Okay, so it's worth having this call out because we are providing a lot of information here that we can't do here because of the scale. Okay. Okay, so now we are going to work with this one. There are a lot of things to do here. Especially, we need to fix this. So there's a roof to wall transition here because this is the wall in which we place the skylight. Okay, so we have a wall and then we have a roof here and we have placed the skylight here. But we need to fix this. I think there were some details here. Okay, so we have something like that. And what is this? Well, basically, what do we have to do? What do we have? We have thermal insulation, and then we have structural wood elements. That's it. And then we need a waterproof layer as well, and the roofing material, which is going to be this metal, this zinc that we use. But it's made of wood, so we have 2 layers of wood. We have rigid insulation there, and then we need to fill. Okay, so we need to fill everything with thermal insulation. When we have these kind of things, we usually the thermal insulation, we have the rigid insulation here in the panel, but to fill the gaps, we use foam. Foam, but not solid foam. We use this kind of stuff. Okay. Yeah. Well, it looks like fun. But this is the kind of thermal insulation that we have to fill small gaps. Or even you can see that we can use this even for, we don't need a rigid panel, so we can use this foam. We can project this foam on the wall, and then it gets, it dries out, and then it becomes something solid. Okay, but it's originally it's something like foam. But especially this is very useful to fill small gaps like this. Okay. So when we have a gap that it's not a regular form, it's not a square, it's not a rectangle, so we can apply this foam and it works. So since we have different angles here, So we will end up having foam to close all these gaps that we have between two panels. Okay, so let's work with callout number 3. There you go. So first we have to analyze this. Well, I remember that I explained you how we created this because this is the beam system. So we are stopping this beam system. This is a void. So there's a beam here, and then we need to stop this beam system with a transversal element there. I think we can see this in this axonometric view. Yeah. So this is the element, the beam. So we interrupt. Okay. So you remember that we interrupted the beam system here. So this is a continuous beam, but here we want to open this, and we have the beam system, and there was a transversal structural element here, okay, connecting all these beams that are resting. Okay, so this element, that structural element, there's the weight or the load of those beams here. Okay, so that's why we created that. And okay, so that was here. The problem is that we have created this with a mass, and there is no overlap here. So we're going to work with masking regions to make a better detail. Okay, so let's do it. We're going to work with another masking region, and I think I'm going to do this. Okay, so this is a masking region here, and this is going to be wood. So we override graphics, and this is the diagonal down. I use a foreground. I'm going to use this. This color for wood. Yeah. And now this is the roof, as you can see here. So we have a roof, and this is the gap. Well, I think we should fill this gap. With this color. Yellow. I would here, okay, so here I can create parts, and I can make it right. I don't want to use surface. No, I'm working with cut patterns, so I don't want foreground in the background. It needs to be solid and yellow. Okay. And this one, I think since we have created this wall with or this roof with roof by extrusion, we can't create parts here. It's a shame. So probably I will need to use another masking region. And So now we have a continuous thermal insulation. That's what I need. And in order to make, you see that the waterproofing layer, we have this gap here, we have this element there. So I'm going to do something like that. I'm going to create another region. Okay, so we have to facilitate the movement of water, and having edges is always, so if we have a soft edge, it will always work better. And by element, and yellow. We need waterproof, hidden, and override, and the weight was 5. Okay. So we have this waterproof layer, and that's it. Well, then we have another layer here, which is the zinc, and we can always offset. And offset. Okay, remember that there should be always an overlap between two different layers, and I think we can make it. Yep, everything has to overlap here. There's the waterproof layer, then there's zinc layer overlapping the waterproof layer, another one overlapping this one. So everything has to overlap here, and this is pretty much what we have to. Yeah, now you have to include the hatch, the insulation hatch there, but now this is up to you. And I think this would be pretty much all we need to do. The text. Now the layers are important. You know what the wall is made of, and but here we can start inserting different layers. So we're going to work with text. This is the structural concrete slab. This is non-structural concrete. Concrete. This is here. And this is the flooring, outdoor. I think the alignment. This can be stainless steel grill. This is the stainless steel drainage. And what is this material? Is this well, we can use this rubber sealant. And what else? Well, the components of the wall, you know them. Plywood, rigid insulation plywood. This is an air cavity or an air chamber. This is another plywood layer. And this is the frame. I think there were wall roof details. And here, yeah, you had all this information here, drill gap, seal, rail, all that stuff that you can copy. This is the seal section, and that would be the head section. Okay, so but you can copy all this text. And for the flooring, yeah, so that would be, what's the name of that? Sleepers. Yep. Okay, so this is what we are doing. Those are sleepers. Yeah, so those are the wooden elements that are just holding the flooring, and we have thermal insulation between them. Here we have the radiant floor, but again, here we have solid wood flooring, moisture retarder. So, and this is the sleeper, the 2x4 sleeper. Here we have a radiant floor, that would be even better. And I'm sure that there would be a radiant floor, because here we don't see any heating systems. So I'm sure that there would be a radiant floor there, but this is too much. But this is the kind of floor that we are doing. We have the sleepers, and then we have the thermal insulation between the sleepers, and then we have the flooring that can be made of any wood, your favorite wood. You can use it. And that's it. Okay, so don't, at the end, we should have like something like the section and the callouts. So last on Tuesday we worked on this one and that one, and today we have worked on this one and that one. This is not well, it's just about filling gaps with this foam. This is what we need here. We need a structural element, in which this wall is resting, and that's all we need from the structural point of view. And then we need just to continue the thermal insulation. We don't have to interrupt the thermal insulation, and we don't have to interrupt the waterproof layer here. And then we have this zinc protecting the waterproof layer. Okay, but it's there is no secret to these kind of details. And anything else? I don't think so. Okay, and now if we are working with the structural element here, I think we should, no, it's not the, I want the axonometric. Okay, I want a section like this showing the skylight and the wall, the window. We can add more information here, maybe. But we can do that in this sheet. Let me hide the crop view, hide the section box. And now on the sheet itself, you should, it's too big, 1/8 is too small. Even if we are redundant, I think we should convey that information again. So it's about text. So we can use text, and we can describe the roof again. And if you remember what we did on that roof, Okay, so here we have all these elements. You can copy all these elements, and then you can convey the same information here. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, so I think that would be useful because we have to be redundant because it's not, okay, I have defined this roof in another document. Yeah, but what if I'm a worker and I'm looking at this document? So if I have here the same information, all the roof components, that will be good. And it will add some value to this drawing. And then you can add more things here. So you can add, if you insert text, structure. Blue or blue laminated wood truss. What else? You can define the wall. And then you can define all the layers of that wall. Okay, so I think that will add a lot of information to this detail. So what can you define? You can define what the roof is made of, the beam structural system, and now you have to find out what kind of elements we are using here. If you click on that element, okay, so here we have a description of the element. So this is the laminate LVL, and then you have in edit type, you have it's 1 foot by 1 foot. So you can give a lot of information here, not just glue laminated timber. You can give information about the size of these panels. And this is what we expect to see when we are looking at this kind of structural elements. Okay, so once you have the model, you have this transparency, it's very nice, but then you have to convey the same information that we have had in different documents, the same information that we have in the callouts, and you have to try to write down the same information here. It's just copying and pasting the same text, because the same text, I have told you before that we have drawings and we have written documents, and everything has to be there. So you have to write this roof build-up in a written document when you submit the project. So you have to copy and paste the same information in different documents. So you have to get used to doing this. So we are working with the callouts. And if we have all these layers in the callout, try to, when you are defining the floor in this axonometric view, this, so insert the text and define the floor again with all the layers that the floor has. Okay, so this is what we mean when we are talking about an about construction and as an axonometric view with the construction elements. It's not just drawing, modeling, yeah, so that's important, but then we need to write down the materials that make up each element, the roof, the floor, the walls, skylights, the structural elements, and that's it. Now, we don't need anything else. We need just the floor, the walls, windows and skylights, the roof structure, and the main structure of the building. So just 5 elements, but we have to define them in different, so every time we have the opportunity to define something, we have to do it. So we can do it in the call out, we can do it in this axonometric view, and so on and so on. Okay, so I think we are done. Once you are, I think those details are too small. What's the scale? It's 3/4. Change the scale 1. Yeah, I think 1 is better. Okay. Or even, let me see, if 1/1/2. Yeah, I think 1/2 works even better than 1. Okay, so we can have like 2 sections to define the, we can define here these callouts, and then in another section, if we are in the, not the site plan, but level 10, level 20. So maybe you can define the callouts on this section 3. That's interesting because here we see that retaining wall. So we have the axonometric view here, the cover page, but we need to prepare a nice perspective for the cover page. We need a site plan. In the site plan, you can always work with some perspectives here. I'll do it right now. Here we have to define 2 plans. Here we have the axonometric view. This is one of the sections with these 2 callouts, and probably we can open a new one. And on that new one, we can work with section 3. What is the scale of this section? 1/4. And here in section 3, we can work with callouts, or just 1 callout defining the skylight. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to define this the skylight here with this section, because here we have a lot of information. We have information about the retaining wall with that shape. Here, well, it's the same. We only have to fill the gaps. This is the structural element. The wall is resting on that structural element, and then we have to fill all these gaps with the same thing we have done for the other callout. Yeah, but I think that looks nicer, and we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the cover page, the site plan, and then at least we have 3 construction documents: the axonometric view, the first section with callouts, the second section with well, it's we don't have to create 2 different callouts. We can define the skylight like this. And for the site plan, we have the contour lines, and I think if we take nice perspectives of the building, no, it's here. It's too big. Yeah. So you can add some perspectives of the building in addition to the site plan. Okay, if you don't have time to prepare everything, because we need a cover page, we need a site plan, and we're going to focus on the construction elements. So if you don't have time to prepare all the sheets, do not do this one. Okay, so this is the easiest one. Well, it's the easiest. It's the floor plan with the roof structure. But since these are plans and we're working on construction elements, the axonometric view and the callouts, so leave this until the end, because if you need to miss one of the pages, it should be this one. Okay, so the cover page is important because it has to be the summary of your building. The site plan with perspectives is always important, and I want you to work on the site plan. And the 3 construction elements, the axonometric view and 2 sections with callouts, so they are mandatory. Okay, so we can, if we don't have time, we can leave the plans, but the rest of the documents have to be there. And I would like, for the cover page, since we're working with construction, I think the cover page should be something like this, like a summary of the building. Okay. It's too much, but I don't know, it's up to you. But I want a nice document for the cover page, and something like that can be good idea for that